Great to have you listening in today. As with previous seasons, it is my hope that the guests and their stories that I get to share with you this season can provide you with the tools and or insights that you need to know that you can make it through whatever is happening for you now. And not only that you can have the life you want in whatever way you want that to look like. So let's get to it. I'm your host, Helen Morris, and this is The Beautiful Side of Grief. I have a topic which I believe will be really interesting for you to listen to today. If you meditate, you may have come across some shamanic meditations, and if you haven't had any experience with them before, may have wondered about what shamanism is. Well, my guest today, Martin, is it Theis? Is that how you say your last name? Is a spiritual coach and teacher who focuses on mental and emotional well-being through the art of shamanic journeys. His mission is to help others on their journey from suffering to finding inner peace and joy through his website, lighttrails.co, which I think is an awesome name. I love that name, just Light Trails. It sounds really cool. Martin divides his time living between Germany, Norway, and Hawaii, and is in the process of building a decentralized network of non-profit organizations that aim at building low entrance barriers, refuges for people to find healing and regeneration. And again, what a beautiful mission that is. So I thought the intention I would set for today is for us to be completely open to understanding what shamanic journeying is all about and how that may assist us to have a greater understanding of our subconscious, how we can access that and use it to assist us in our life. Please know that if you're listening today, that there is a reason you have been drawn to listen in. Trust that, and may you be surrounded with love, peace, and happiness. So, Martin, a very warm welcome to you today, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for this beautiful intro and the invitation. The pleasure is all mine.
Oh, you're so welcome. Hey, which country are you residing in at the moment?
I am in Germany, actually. I got back from Hawaii just a couple of weeks ago. I kind of cut my stay short. So I thought I would be there until the end of March, but I am in Germany right now.
Okay. Well, I definitely prefer to be in Hawaii because it's a little bit warmer over there, I imagine, than it is in Germany, especially at this time of the year. Not so bad for us here in New Zealand. Mind you, we're getting hammered with rain. So, gosh, the weather will be what it will be. Okay. So I have to make a confession, and I just alluded to this to you a short moment ago, that shamanism has intrigued me for the past couple of years, and I feel I'm on the fringe of it, wanting to know more. So there is a selfish reason I'm also speaking to you today, because I think it's going to help me understand something that I've been drawn to for so long. So before we get into the ins and outs of what shamanism is, I discovered that you like to cook. So who is one person you'd like to cook for and why?
Oh, I love you. You didn't steal that, but my mentor asked that question recently, and I think it's interesting because I ask similar questions, but the cooking question is new. So I love this question, by the way, and I love so many different people. That is part of my personality, is that I have so many different interests that it is really hard for me to answer this question. And I would say I'd probably, because Jim Carrey and Keanu Reeves are kind of like these two actors that I really, really love, enjoy watching, enjoy their personal kind of way of being. And so it would be really nice to cook for one of them, to just make a really fancy, I'm vegan, so I would make a really beautiful curry, probably something Indian, something really spicy but tasty. I would love to do that for Keanu Reeves, definitely.
Yeah. He's a bit of a favorite of mine as well. Probably not for the same reasons as you, but hey.
It doesn't matter.
And I read that you've had quite a few different professions. You've been a DJ, a music producer, a coffee roaster, a convention and festival organizer, a carpenter, builder, vegan chef, as you just mentioned, caregiver, sauna host, project manager. So, can you just help us understand what drew you into the world of shamanism?
The beautiful thing about that discovery is that it's the foundation, it's underlying. While having gone on this external on the in the world of form, if you will, and jobs and kind of sustaining myself, I was doing and learning and participating in my teaching of the shamanic journey teachings with my mentor. But on the outside, I was pursuing like all these different things, trying to find my way, finding what I want to do in this world. And so I would say, to make it a little easier, I was a musician for the longest time, trying to make it as a musician, in the sense of being able to earn money with my music and with my profession as a musician. So a lot of these jobs that you just mentioned were flexible enough for me to be able to make music, because it was minimum wage in a sense, but maximum flexibility in terms of scheduling and how long I could do breaks, or if I could go off on ventures. And so all these different jobs just were kind of like a causal result from wanting to be a musician, being a musician, and needing more flexibility in order to go to festivals, to play there, to produce my music. That is kind of like that. And the shamanistic teachings and explorations were always a part of that, you know?
I know, because there is a beautiful rhythm, and it makes so much sense when you just explain your interest in music, how you would be drawn to that as well, because it's almost like it's a hypnotic music, isn't it? So rather than me sort of come up with these, what I think it is, why don't you go ahead and tell us what a shamanic journey is all about?
Yeah, so I would say ahead, like before we start, that this is just my understanding, as well as this
Mhm.
one part of shamanic journeys. There's so many different kinds, probably. I haven't really experienced the full width of the landscape of shamanic journeys, because I stayed with my one mentor and did a little excursion in Ireland where I worked with another shamanic practitioner. And so where I'm coming from is mostly the shamanic journeys that I was taught in the lineage of the Lakota, the Sioux tribe in Northern America and the USA. That is where the teaching kind of like simulated down to me through my mentor. And what it is non medicine induced. It is because there's also probably tons of ways where you can just incorporate any kind of substances into these journeys. But the way I was taught is just with the rhythm of the drum, kind of like a meditation where we lie down, and my teacher, when I am receiving or when I'm giving in my profession, am drumming the drum, and the person is going on their inner journey, and images come up. And there are oftentimes, you come with me, or you have an intention. What it is that you want to find out today? What is my intention for meeting, for the session? And then this journey will be catering to that, asking of the question that you had, and will be answering you that question, if that makes any sense. And so
Mhm.
along with that comes the instruction for the journey of the day. You know, I have created a 16-week program for my one-on-one coachings, where we're just using different kind of journeys to help you with your main intention, with your main goal. If you come to me, I have a certain goal. I want to be more loving in my relationship. I want to be less angry, whatever that intention is. The whole journeys will be catering to that meta or this overall intention, but you will be there on a day maybe you got frustrated or sad because of something, and then we will be working with this micro intention in that particular journey. And like I said, it is often an assignment. For example, in week 5, we travel into the inner basement and we look at what have I stored, what have I kind of put into my inner basement, and we will be working with that, what is lying there, and we'll be letting go of some of the baggage or all of it. The person decides in their journey, whatever they experience, they will let go of that which is found in the basement, and then they will come back out of that journey, which is usually in my coaching sessions 15 to 20 minutes, because we don't have as much time in these sessions as if in a workshop or something where we have a little bit more time. And then we will be talking about the imagery, about the sensation, what came up. And the person is usually decoding their own journey, except for when they need some help. What could this mean? I found this object, or there was this one person and he wasn't talking to me. You know, it's something that where questions come up. I'm just offering suggestions on what it feels like to me, and then helping to decode that inner landscape to a certain extent. And what I see again and again is that the more we do that, we create kind of like a dictionary or an understanding of our images, and we are more versed in decoding this. It's a little bit like dream work, where when we start off, sometimes it's a little bit confusing. What does this dream mean? And the more we work with that, the more we understand what lies behind that image. What does this mean for me? You know?
Okay, so a couple of things come out of that for me. The first thing is it's good to know that you don't need any medicinal enhancements to do this work, because there is a lot of that out there at the moment.
Yeah.
It just seems like more and more people are moving into that, and you would think with this beautifully hypnotic work, you would benefit from that. So it's good to know that you don't need that. Can anyone go in on a journey? There are people out there that just say, gosh, I just don't have the imagination, or, I try, but I just never seem to be able to go to the level where I get questions or I see images. What would you say around that?
Definitely anyone can do it. The question of resistance, how much is my expectation? How much is my expectation in the way? I would say in the last year, since I have been working in this program a lot, there was only one of my clients who was really struggling, and the expectation was oftentimes getting in the way, So
when
that
you
is
talk so just explain us a little bit more about what expectation is. Is that the expectation that they will see stuff and be able to
or
go into
won't.
the state?
Absolutely.
Or won't.
Whatever the expectation is. And it is not a bad thing, and it does not keep us from journeying. This person was going on their journeys, but there were sometimes phases where he got stuck in a sense, And so then we work with that, and it is as vital in a sense to look at these sensations. Some people journey differently. It's not for all that it is a vision or a visionary in a sense. Some people journey and they have sensations. They feel energy shifting in their body. Some people hear things. So it is not because I'm not seeing things, I'm not going on a journey. I will be, like, from the moment that the drum is drumming, because of the way that the shamanic work is working, is that is already part of that journey. And whatever comes up, right? And so we will be working with whatever comes up. If there is a blank, if I'm kind of like stuck and I can't see those things. And I just wanted to add, because you said I'm not imaginative, that sentence, it's not that we imagine that, it is that images come up. Our subconscious is getting in touch with us. It is kind of like
so we're not
sending us
driving
pictures.
it.
Yeah. In the best sense, if we are really able to allow it, it would be just an unfolding and an observation of what unfolds, so not steering it.
How would you know that you're actually journeying? Is there cues or certain things that indicate to you that that person is indeed journeying, even if they believe that they aren't, like you just mentioned?
That's a good question. I mean, I personally know when I'm journeying because it's just my sensation, right? But when I'm facilitating the session, then it is too much of a construct to dive into that now. I would have some cues in this moment for, like, I would ask a certain question, or I would be just like relying on my feelings or whatever came up in the journey. I'm journeying as well while I drum the drum, right? I'm facilitating that space. So I'm with the people, even though I'm not in your journey, I'm still kind of like somewhere tagging along, right? So I have some cues. I pick up on some things, and in the end, it's in the moment, kind of like in the moment session, that whatever comes up, that intuitiveness is a really strong factor that I needed to get used to in a moment where I feel a total blank. I don't know how to continue with the client, to just trust that the right question, the right image, whatever comes up, and that there is no wrong or right way. It is just trusting that process and helping in this moment to see if it is constricted, or if there is something happening where it's really stuckness in a sense. And it's just like a knot, right? We just have to look at that knot and turn it around and see where can we loosen this up? How can I help the person to untie that knot?
You know, what you say there is so beautiful, because that is what spent the past couple of years learning, is just to relax into life more, just trust, surrender to it, and just allow it to be what it needs to be. Like, we don't always need to be the ones controlling. And in fact, often when we put ourselves into the driver's seat, we can in fact be impeding the things that we most want to be happening. So, yes, that's something I'm still learning. So, is there anything that somebody can do if they feel like they do have barriers up? Is there like deep breathing, or just what would you recommend if somebody thinks that they're really struggling trying to have that breakthrough, but they do want to persevere?
Yeah. I think, like you said, breathing is probably one of the most important, most overlooked things. It's so easy. Everybody can do it. And my teacher kept saying, like, this is her mantra, kind of breathe, feel, this kind of like connection between breathe, and through the breathing, allow whatever emotion is, because we get into this stuck mode, or we get into loss of energy, tired, whatever you want to call it, when we avoid feeling what wants to be felt, right? What is there. When we try to suppress that, that's when we lose most of our energy and our connection. So through that breathing process, to just be able to feel and accept what is there. And if it is painful, I love to use the analogy. Emotions are probably often very painful, right? If we breathe and we don't want to feel them, I would just say it's probably oftentimes something negative we try to avoid. To just use the analogy between stretching, where there is a way how we can stretch where we're just getting into that part of our tendons or whatever in the body we're stretching, where it's just beginning to hurt, right? That's just that discomfort, that really minor discomfort, rather than going so much into the pain that everything is locking up, that the whole body just is super tense. That is just my way of describing. If we start breathing, to just be with that feeling, as much as it just is this uncomfortable, but we're able to be with that, and to keep on breathing and allow that feeling to be there. And I remember a year ago when I was in Norway, for the first time, I was really having a breakthrough with my anger. And so I was the whole day, I had so much pain in my body, and I was just breathing, trying to get rid of it, because I felt like, okay, if I breathe, it goes away, but it didn't go away. And at some point I realized, well, I think I'm accepting, but I'm not, because my acceptance is with the condition of if it going away, if that makes any sense to you. So,
Yes.
but accepting that it's there and that it's staying, and accepting, okay, this is my anger, and it's here and it hurts. And if, okay, it seems to be staying, then I have no other way than to just accept this is how I feel right now. This is what is, you know?
What a very valuable example, because, that is what so many of us do. We just go through life suppressing. So we've got all this emotion, often residing inside of us that comes out in certain situations. And it's so important sometimes not to just release it and make it go away. It's actually to sit with it and understand it and be with it. And gosh, what a great example that was. Yeah, I love that. And I've also heard too that when you come up against resistance, especially if you're new to this type of work, your subconscious or your conscious mind has spent, and subconscious mind for that matter, has spent so much of the time on automatic programming. And so when you start to do something that's a little bit different or a little bit outside of what you have done before, then your body's going, what's going on here? I'm not sure I like this. This is going outside of what we've got finely tuned in. And so you're starting to challenge, and your body doesn't always like that, does it?
Yeah, and then going back to that discomfort level, just being loving with ourselves and with that resistance, right? And I think some of my teachers say, if you can't accept, then accept that you can't accept. If there's resistance, then accept that resistance. Okay, right now it's not possible for me to forgive this person. I hate this person, what they did to me, whatever happened. But then to find acceptance in, well, okay, then for me right now, I can accept that I can't accept that right now, or I can accept that I can't forgive.
Is that what you mean by letting go of like form identification and embracing the changeless in us and others? And is that what you're kind of talking about? Like
Yeah,
just
I
that
thought
acceptance?
yes, in a way. And I thought when I read through the questions, the three takeaways, I thought about the beautiful side of grief, right? The name of your
Mm-hmm.
podcast, that when we lose someone really dear to us, that to become aware that we are just changing our shape. We're just changing, kind of like the energy is just changing form. Those people are still there. And this might not be buying in that sense, because a person on this plane of reality, for example, my mom, my dad, my children, whoever I have lost, it is different having them around and being close and having that physical reality to it, but they're still there. It's just a different kind of energy, right? So that was what I had in mind, of letting go of that, holding on to that physical form in that person.
That is beautiful. And that is exactly true. Yeah. Because that's what I have in my life, and that's what my daughter showed me right from the outset. She just let me know that she was there. And
Yeah.
she came to me and let me know first, before anybody else, that she'd had her accident and transitioned. And so I've been able to, I don't know, let go and just explore this journey and know that there was something far greater than what I understood at the time happening, and that she was in fact there, and she's still with me, and very strongly. And that is a beautiful, but it's a difficult concept to get our
Yeah.
minds
Yeah.
around, very difficult. And I think we often close after seeing or feeling or hearing signs from our loved ones because we're stuck in that trauma or that grief. Now, with that, there's a grief, but I'm also a great believer that the grief actually opens the doors to any trauma that you may have had in your lifetime as well. And
Yeah.
often those are the things that stay there long after perhaps you've got your head and accepting of that loved one no longer being sort of on this earth anymore. So, and a lot of people don't realize that it's trauma that they then need to deal with. And so this type of journeying, like you say, how does that help them deal with trauma and any emotions? And it doesn't need to be trauma in a big form, but
Yeah.
what are people going to get out of shamanic journey?
Yeah, so I think the whole bandwidth that you just mentioned, it is from the most extreme trauma that we experience to minor episodes of emotional unrest. The whole bandwidth is covered. And so what it did for me is, and I totally agree to what you said in terms of my personal experience, that the loss of my cousin who died was kind of in itself a very traumatic event. But when I started unraveling all this in the process of my development of my spiritual journey, I realized that the childhood trauma that was kind of like beneath that or behind that, kind of like covered by that in the beginning, was much deeper than the actual pain of losing this loved one. It was that childhood trauma that I worked so much more in terms of time and energy and whatever you want to call it in healing that child wound in relation to that trauma of losing this loved one. So I agree. And I think the beautiful part of the shamanic journeys that I was taught and am teaching is that because we don't use an agent, we don't use a medicine, it is kind of like the sledgehammer that the substance sometimes is in breaking open doors and kind of like creating these situations, is that it's very gentle. I decide where's my resistance, how much am I able to deep dive into this. Where is resistance? Where is a blank? Where am I not seeing anything? Where am I kind of like in front of a closed door? And then working with that until I'm ready, until this kind of like has integrated, so that I'm able to say, well, I'm still afraid, but I will go into this room now. I feel ready, And I think the beautiful part of that is really that process of deciding for oneself if we are ready, what we are willing to work on, and to integrate these things and to get stronger, to be empowered in our work, and to just do it one step at a time, rather than, like I said, a sledgehammer, or just doing a mushroom or LSD trip and then just being in a bad trip, which is nothing else than just too much. It is not bad per se, but it's just like too much probably for where we are right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. You put a reminder on Instagram, which I just love. It's sometimes letting go of things is an act of far greater power than defending or hanging on. And I think that's really apt with what we're talking about, because it is that letting go. It is the understanding what's coming up. And I love that it's a gentle way to do that. It's almost like your body is deciding how much you can handle releasing, instead of, like you say, having these massive release where everything comes out. It's just like 20, 30, 40 years of all this stuff that's been inside of you, and it all comes out, and it's too much. It's too overwhelming. It's like emotionally, physically, spiritually, on whatever level you want to think. It's a very, very difficult time to manage when there is too much information coming out. And I sometimes think that when people ask you to talk, sometimes that's not always the best thing, because I'm a great believer, if you let your body tell you what it needs, then it will give you those lights. So I'm not sure if I'm making any sense here. I just think it's lovely how you describe that the emotions can just rise gently and slowly and be looked at and then dealt with. Have I got that right? What it's all about?
Yeah, kind of. And I think, just to be clear, there's like the other methods of maybe a mescaline or a psilocybin trip or whatever we use in terms of substances are valid in this sense if somebody feels called to it. I spoke to many people who had great revelations, really great shifting, great transformation, and they felt ready. It is all about, how do I feel about this? And I was always really afraid of these substances because subconsciously I knew how much I suppressed, all these emotions, all the feelings, everything that was bottled up. I kind of like felt subconsciously it's not a good idea to open Pandora's box in a sense, but other people deal with their emotions differently. And so I feel it is just like, what am I called to do? Am I called to go into the Peruvian mountains and do an ayahuasca trip? And then I do that because I feel called to do that,
That's a good point to make. Very good. Thank you for that. So let's talk about totem animals and people identifying their totem animal and what that means. How is that going to aid them?
Yeah, so I feel I've been on this journey with my totem animal for over 10 years now, and I still learn so much and getting a better understanding of how it helps me in my everyday life or in my journeys. But I would say in the beginning phase, it's kind of like your sidekick. It is your animal that is by your side, that gives you great strength. There were countless journeys where I was really afraid to go forward, and then I realized I have my totem animal by my side.
Can I ask you what yours is?
Yeah, so my primal, if you want to say, or the my main totem animal is a black leopard, and so it is something that is just our, like when we go back to the theory behind it, it is our potential in form of an animal. Like if we see our full potential as human beings, this animal shows us our like potential and our strength, our weaknesses, also something that we struggle with, the whole 9 yards. How is it sleeping? How is it hunting? How is it mating? Is it in a group? Is it an individual? Where is it living? What is the context? Is it water, air? Like, is it underwater, or is it a bird or something, that a mammal living on the earth? So we can learn so much just looking at these things and learning. And for me, I would say that the best way for me to learn tiny thing, which might be not easy to understand for the audience, but there are jaguars and there are leopards, and they look pretty similar. It's just one species lives in Africa and the other lives in Southern America. And so the way they deal with conflict is, jaguars are more muscular. They have more power. So when they have a conflict, they approach a conflict head on. They just bite into their enemies' necks and kill them this way, just head on collision. And a leopard is not able to do that because they're not as muscular. They don't have as muscular jaws. So they kind of like sneak from behind or try to avoid this kind of like frontal collision. They will lose a lot of the times in Africa when they have a conflict like that with the hyena or whatever, they might lose. So for me, it was important to understand, if a conflict arises, I need to withdraw. I need to gain my resources. I need to kind of reflect and work with that, and then approach that conflict from a different kind of, with a different energy, with a different point of view, having worked through my patterns, because I would usually get afraid in these instances and be submissive or just freeze, So that is just a tiny, tiny bit how we can learn something from our totem animals and what they show us if we are willing to listen.
Okay. And could you have already identified that animal if there is like a particular animal that keeps coming to you throughout life, or you keep seeing images of, and consciously you're not even aware that that is perhaps your totem animal? Is that possible?
It could be, but also maybe also as an example, I had elephants and hippos all my life as stuffed animals, and I loved them. And so the assumption could have been near when I just go with that. What am I seeing? What is in my periphery? What animals are showing up? That these could be one of these could be my totem animal. So it can be. It is definitely a way how I learned that they can show up. That when they start showing up frequently, if we start seeing documentaries about a certain animal, but this could also be just a helper, kind of like a contemporary guide, So really knowing what our totem animal is, for me, is the easiest way is to do a shamanic journey and to find that animal and ask it, are you my totem animal? And that is what at least to me in my work was the most or the best way to really understand, because in this shamanic journey they will tell you, if you think this is my totem animal and you ask and it says no, then you so and it can change, of course, everything can change, but in this moment, for me, the easiest way is to usually do that journey, find that animal, or call an animal to show itself your totem animal, and then to ask that animal that shows up, are you my totem animal? That would be my approach.
So if somebody's listening right now and they're wanting to go ahead and do that, they can go onto your website, can't they? And there's a free journey that you do, isn't there?
There is. I'm in the process of creating YouTube journeys. So I don't think that I have a written manual or something, but it's relatively easy. And if people are really interested, they could always reach out to me and we could do it just like that,
Yeah.
So I'm in the process of creating shamanic journeys on YouTube so people can just do them. And the totem animal journey is relatively easy, so I can guide anyone to that in maybe 60 minutes, just taking a little bit of time and then doing that.
Okay. I also read that something you wrote, and I quote, "No one can teach you anything you don't already know in the deepest depths of your heart," end quote. As my regular listeners know, and I knew that what I now call echoes of Tal's accident through my unnatural reaction to hearing about teens dying in car accidents. So like even before I had Tal, I would have a bizarre reaction when I heard of teenagers dying in car accidents. And then, of course, when she died in a car accident, it was like a ding-ding moment. It's like, oh, my gosh, on some deeper level, I've been preparing for this my whole life. And I just didn't know that was, predestined in a sense. Is this the type of thing that expression speaks to, or is it something completely, or have I completely misread it?
No, I think it is. What I'm meant to say is that I think it's especially my way of trying to bring across that in a time and age where personal development, spiritual development, coaching, even though I am in this business, there is so much going on today. I said it feels like the wild, wild west of in some kind, that don't get lost in letting other people tell you need something in order to find your truth. Like I did it pretty much all by myself. I healed myself through my own DIY kind of way. Even though I found things that worked for me, I kind of did it step by step in creating my own healing journey. That's what I mean with that. If we really want to we can figure this out. We are our own teacher. And in my shamanic journey program, I'm just trying to assist you with everything that I learned along the way to speed that process up. But in the end, you're your own teacher. You're your own wisdom, kind of source of wisdom in the sense. That is what I meant. Don't get caught in that you need a certain service, you need a certain book or a program in order to heal. You're like, people instantly find enlightenment still, like that. This is nothing that it is rare, but it's possible for everyone, right? We can all realize who we are from one instant to the next. That is what I meant.
Okay, great. I love that. Do you think there are a lot of people out there who are scared to explore their emotional state? And why do you think that is so?
I think so. From personal experience in my periphery right now, absolutely. And me included, like if you talk to me maybe 15 years ago, I would not have known about it as consciously as I know now. But I was really scared about my emotions because of the experiences I made as a kid. I was overwhelmed. I was in a state where emotions were most of the time really harmful because I was exposed to certain elements outside of myself where it just felt bad. It felt really bad. And I consciously use a generic term like bad because we as children, we don't have the vocabulary to express. And so I think depending on the level of trauma that we experience in our lifetime, some people just shut down their emotional capacity because it's just too painful. And so we're afraid to open that box up because we subconsciously remember all the pain that we stored. Like it is still in there. We never dealt with that. It's just like somewhere bubbling below the surface, and we're really, really afraid to open that up because we kind of know what's waiting for us, you know?
And we also put a lot of things in place to protect us when we were experiencing that, and that protection has probably served you well while you were growing up. And as an adult, we can just be scared to sort of take away that security that's kept us functioning, that's kept us going. Yeah. So I'm excited to hear more about the sanctuary that you're building. Share with us more about that and who it's for and why you're doing it.
Yeah, so it is a lifelong project to be like, I committed to this 3-4 years ago. And it feels like a very big project. Just to give you some sort of reference, it's not built. There is no property yet. It is still in the non-material energy form, but it is gaining energy. It is gaining momentum. It is kind of like getting attention from people, and it resonates with people. That's one thing that really amazes me, how every time when I start speaking about this, people are just all ears. They're really interested. And I love this concept. And the idea behind this is, I realized when I started my coaching practice that there a lot of service that we find in the world, about in the personal development world and in spiritual retreats, is really costly. I was surprised how much money certain retreats cost, and that not including any hotel costs or flying, whatever it is. And I saw that there's so much money involved, and finding cheap alternatives was nearly inexistent, you know? And so I felt the sanctuary or the refuge was my way of seeing a vision that I had about a place where people can come, heal, transform, and go back into their communities and bring that healing back into their communities and kind of like start building these things themselves. So it is about, like you mentioned in the intro, the network. I think the most important part of that vision was always the decentralized networks of teaching people how to create these sanctuaries, doing that in their own places. If they have a place of land somewhere, then DIY, opening that up and seeing it as a process rather than we have to have this five-star retreat center where it's already, when we invite people, let it be a journey where we start with just the land and we invite. It's a little bit, have you seen that movie? It's an old movie with Kevin Costner with a baseball field where they kind of like, where it's
Field
about,
of Dreams.
yeah, Field of Dreams, right? So if you create the space, the people will come, right? So starting with that idea that when we create that space, that people will come. They might not be living in a luxurious quarters, but they probably don't care because they love the idea. They want to participate. They want to create, and then that is the idea, just having these kind of places more and more in the world, because it feels like we're slowly, as human beings, we're waking up. More and more people realize that there's more to life than just 9 to 5 holidays and consumption in any kind of material things. And I don't think we have the capacity right now, if everyone on the planet wanted to start to do something like that, that we don't have the capacity to buffer that, to give people a place to heal and transform. And so this sanctuary was always meant as a low barrier way of doing that, that people don't have to pay for that, to find a solution how something like that can sustain itself through donations, but also through some kind of economical structure that's supporting it. And the sanctuary in Hawaii would be in growing coffee and roasting coffee and selling that coffee, so that is just like one way of doing that.
Yeah, so making it self-sustaining by, having an income source, not dependent on people paying it, yes, because that's often a barrier to people, isn't it? When they want to go to a retreat, they know they need something like that. They know they need the time out and the guidance and support, and then they look at the cost and go, uh-oh. And so then it just makes it not accessible to the loads of people that really, really could benefit from it. So I absolutely love what you're doing there, and congratulations on being one of the change makers in that arena. That's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe just one last sentence. I think we as a maybe not as a whole, but many people still work on that assumption that what doesn't cost anything isn't worth anything, right? And so I think there is a shift that needs to be happening inside of us, that we realize the value of things detached from monetary values, right? And so it is not all the people that I spoke with who started similar projects always said that was the one point that broke the camel's back, that the people didn't pay, and you just invite a sort of, or a kind of people who are not willing to do the work or whatever it is. So I am aware of the fact that this is something that needs to be, there needs to be a solution for this. And I think I have a solution, but just that it's not done in the sense, if it's free, it will work, right? But I think being aware of these pitfalls and then finding creative solutions for that is also one way how we build these new things, trying them out and adapting as we go.
I think that's what the age we're moving into. I think that we're sort of coming back into valuing communities more, and people coming together and sharing their skills and those sorts of things. I know it's a little bit different, but I feel that shift in the universe, and I like it. I like it because I like that we shouldn't be driven by the mighty dollar or whatever currency it is, and that that people and our experiences with people should matter more. And that's just my personal belief system. So, Hey, there's a couple of things I want to ask you before we finish up and before we get your takeaways for this hour. So what is the best thing that has happened to you so far today?
Today, our conversation that was like I was in the fortunate position, and maybe disfortunate or unfortunate position, that the timing of this podcast, as well as two other podcasts that I was recording today, were falling into this day. So it has been a challenge to be speaking such a long time, but it's been 3 hours now. But I think that was the most beautiful thing today, that I had such lovely conversations, including this conversation where it is just about how can we learn from each other? How can we serve? How can we kind of like move forward? How can we move into this new century with a different, like in this paradigm shift that is necessary for the planet, but as well as for us human beings? And how can we, Ramdas, I don't know if you know, the spiritual teacher who passed away some years ago, he said, let's all walk each other home. You know, that sentiment of supporting each other, and we're in this together, so let's be more compassionate and loving, and let's have this. I mean, to be honest, the last year was so amazing for me because I was able to live in Norway, Germany, and Hawaii, which has always been my dream.
Beautiful.
But it was only so beautiful because of all the people that I met, because of everything that happened, where I was able to give a hand, where I was able to just like serve others in a sense where it's not self-consuming. It's not me taking on some burden, but where it's just like me serving and the person being in this place of accepting that service and creating some kind of magical bond in this, you know. So this is why I feel this is so important, and having the chance to talk about this today all day pretty much is just beautiful.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You're speaking to my heart when you talk. Okay, the next thing I want to know is, what is the proudest moment or thing that you've done in your life to date?
So pride might not be able, I don't know if pride really covers it, but it is gratitude, and it is the moment in time I would love to travel back to if I could experience this one more time. And I just talked about this today in another podcast, a festival that we did as a collective from Colonian people, like in Cologne, Germany. We did a music festival, and it was embedded in a kind of like money-free system where it was just like a participatory festival where everybody arrived and shared and donated the money for the food and the drinks. And I was in this state of bliss for the 5 days, especially during the festival, because it was happening in this bubble of love and acceptance and kind of like all these beautiful things that it was a utopian dream, right? And so I would say that was my proudest moment, to answer your questions, if we use that word, because I felt so blessed to be able to witness and to be a part of this and to experience it, and let alone being in the position that I knew everything about this festival because we had planned it and executed it, right? So that was why I feel like this is something that really fills me with great joy.
I'm going to change that word from proud to grateful. What is the thing you're most grateful for? Because I think that's more appropriate. Pride is something that some people struggle with, but I think gratitude, now that's a different word altogether. It's got a different energy to it. So thank you for that. So that just went ding ding in my head as we were speaking. And I mean, that collective energy, oh my gosh, of all those people and all on that wavelength doing that must have been just such an incredible experience. And you can't explain what that's like to others, can you? You have to be there.
Those who were there know, and those who didn't don't, and it's not possible to put it in words. That is the difficult thing for everyone who heard about it. If they ask me what was so special, I can't tell you. You have to have experienced that.
Yeah. Okay. Final thing is, what's your go-to when there are moments in your day that turn to custard that aren't going so well?
That is a difficult question to me. I would say my last resort is a book from Eckhart Tolle, Silence Speaks. I think it's called. I think it's Silence Speaks. I'm not sure. It is kind of like a book where it is meant as kind of like a meditation, and where I love listening to him anyway. So I would say it doesn't depend on the person, but I would say if I'm really feeling bad, Eckhart Tolle is probably among Ram Dass and Wayne Dyer, among those people I go to in order to really connect with what is important. Is this true? Is this like the experience that I'm having, this part of the illusion, my mind, which is tricking out on me, to get a reality check and to get some help from my spiritual teachers. That is what I do.
Could it be Stillness Speaks?
Stillness Speaks. Absolutely.
Yes,
thank you.
Yes. No, that's only because I Googled it as you were talking.
Yeah.
Okay. What 3 takeaways would you, and I love Eckhart Tolle, by the way. So what 3 takeaways or however many takeaways, what takeaways would you like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, so I mean, you already introduced it a little bit, and I was struggling a little bit with the 3 takeaways because sometimes it's difficult for me to put this into practical words. But what came up was we are energy, and to remember that we are. I think Wayne Dyer said, we're not humans having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So to know that we are energy, we are kind of like, I think what it means, we are energy, is basically we are all of like all creations of God, if you will, of the Great Spirit. And to really feel this, it is one thing to have this as a conceptual concept or a mind construct, but to really feel I am part of everything and everything is part of me, and I am just a tiny bit of everything that is, but everything that is in me, right? So that the whole idea about this, that we are part of the great mystery, that is what I mean with we are energy, to really remember that, because when we remember that, then all the drama and all the illusions that we are surrounded by that aren't real in a sense are just put into not the right, but a kind of perspective. And then energy is never lost. It only changes form. That's what we talked about. Like, we never lose people. They're always with us. We can always connect with them if we just like hold the intention, and that, yeah, energy is just not lost. It just changes its shape. It changes its form. And so that is maybe a little metaphysical, or maybe a little bit too loose. And then the last thing is letting go of form identification and embracing the changeless in us and others can transform our understanding of reality by letting go of what our concept of reality is and being open to experience this present moment with new eyes, with kind of like this understanding of this moment is unique. This moment has never been, and it will never be the same way. And my concept of it, or my wanting to avoid how it is, doesn't change how it is. Let's just drop all the labels, drop all those judgments, and then experience this moment as it is and see that aliveness and that beauty in that moment. And it is not like, this is really, we're talking masterclass level, and I'm not living like this all the time. It's just like the 3 takeaways that we can all, let's aim high.
Aspire to. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Oh my gosh, and they are incredible. I love them. I love the energy behind them. I love what you're conveying with them. And especially for someone who has lost a loved one, that to know that they're still there with you in an energetic form, just not a physical form. And that is so beautiful. And I wish more people could understand that. It is quite a new concept, though, and a bit difficult for some people to get their head around. But Martin, just share with us, it's going to be in the episode notes, but share with us where people can reach you and get hold of you.
Yeah, so I'm not very social media like present. So lighttrails.co is my website, and that's where you can get a hold of me. Definitely. Other than that, like I told you, I'm in the process of creating these shamanic journeys on YouTube, so that will be a part. But I would probably say work will be offered, is usually communicated through my website. And if I'm really able to do that, then I'll publish it on social media. But because I'm doing this by myself and the day has only 24 hours, I'm focusing on stuff that really matters. And social media is not right now one of my top priorities.
Oh, I so get you. And look, less and less it's becoming mind. It's sort of like a kind of a necessary thing to let people know about the episodes and things like that. But if I could find another way, definitely I probably would be using that. Oh gosh, Martin, I just have to say thank you so very, very much for the time and for the beautiful insights that you've shared with us today about shamanic journeying and all the other wisdom. You've just got this beautiful, beautiful energy about you. And I know you're your third podcast in today, but I'm so grateful that you brought so much knowledge and grace and beautiful wisdom to share with us today. And I wish you all the very, very best for creating that sanctuary. It just sounds
Thank you.
What we all need. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you from my point of view. And I hope I don't understand. I love this. And the third podcast doesn't mean last but not least, it's just like, it has been my pleasure, and I really appreciated you having me and having this beautiful conversation. So all the best, and thank you to all. If anyone needs anything, always give me a shout out, and to you as well.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. I hope you got some real value from this episode. Let me know how I'm doing, or if there's a topic you'd like covered, by clicking on the Healing to Be You Gmail link or going to the Healing to Be You website. To get notified of new episodes, hit the subscribe button, and please share if you know of someone who could benefit from this episode. Until next time, be kind to you and take good care.